So we really, really appreciate you taking the time to chat with Pop Fusion TV. I just want to talk to you more about this really dope show that you're about to premiere on. So
yes.
Mrs. America so exquisitely captures the fight women made in the 1970s for equal rights.
Right.
And
yes.
Unfortunately, we continue to fight many of these same battles today, one of them being equal pay.
Right.
How do you think this project serves the struggle and can be a part of the solution?
I believe that the project can, not only the equal pay struggle, but also all of the struggles that we as women face, whether we are white, Black, whatever our background, is just bringing awareness to the power of women as well as the progress of women's liberation over the years. The 1970s was not that long ago, and to hear some of the conversations that these women had on this show is kind of jarring, because it's like, wow, we're still having those same conversations. And a lot of these women are so unsung. A lot of these women's names, I did not even know who they were until I got on set and I was able to just do some research just about who they were and why were these women so important to highlight in a series this massive. And then to find out some of the things that they've done and some of the ways they've pushed women forward, just in being able for women to have a credit card, for women to just work, for women to be seen as an individual and a human just as men, and those conversations, those real conversations about reproductive rights, abortion rights, all of those things that they brought to the forefront in a very outspoken, fierce way in a time that did not allow space for women to have a voice. So I believe when it comes to specifically equal pay, which is still a fight that we are in, I just think it will just bring awareness to who women are and the progress we've had, and hopefully help push those narratives forward and push those issues forward so we can come to a place where we're not fighting for things that should be our rights, that should just be the norm. And I feel like a lot of people will be educated. Yeah, a lot of people will really, what I love about the show is that it's drama packed. You get story, you're going to get amazing performances by amazing artists and actors, but you're also going to get informed and educated on a time that I do believe swept a lot of women under the rug about what happened during that huge political culture of the 70s.
Girl, I wish you could see me nodding my head. I'm about to snap my neck. I'm nodding my head so aggressively right now. No, really, I think that's spot on, and I think, the show's going to create such a strong awareness for these women's, for these ladies' struggle and their successes. And I do think it will drive another generation of action towards the movement.
Definitely. So, especially when you see, it's something about, people say, if you're focused on the future, only look ahead. But it is something about looking back and understanding where you come from. Because I think, as women of today, we can't look back and think, oh, I couldn't even get my own credit card. I couldn't even go and vote. Like things that are just our norm, where we're just posting all day, like y'all just went shopping and spent my whole limit, or y'all better vote because vote. Little things like that are our norm was not the case back in the day. And just to see the tenacity that these women had, I think is something about looking back at history to know where you want to go. Because we're just being, they're passing the baton to us. And if we're just like, no, I'm just here and I'm going to keep looking forward. But you need to have a backstory. You need to have where you come from. You need to see the women you come from.
Absolutely. We must know from whence we've come in order to know the way that we must go. Yes. No, that's dope. So in Miss America, in Mrs. America, in Mrs. America, let me get that right.
She's married, y'all.
She married, y'all. She is married. So in Mrs. America, you portray Margaret Sloan, who is a Black, gay, civil rights advocate, and feminists who fought a battle for equality on so many fronts. And I'm just curious to know, are there any moments from your life where you had to fight for your own rights that you were able to tap into for this role?
That's a really good question. And yes. Wow. Yeah. I mean, there is a scene that when I was, when I was filming the scene, it was, I think it's with episode 4, Ama Asante directed it, and she's just fierce. She was amazing to work with. But there's a scene where you get to kind of really understand Margaret's place when it came to her voice at Ms. Magazine and how she felt about how her voice was being used, and mainly not being used as much. Sometimes, us as Black people, we get into mostly white spaces, and we're just there for a diversity, quota, and not for what we can actually bring to the table. Not that, well, because they don't care, or 2, they just don't want to take on that kind of weight. And so there was a scene that I did that, like, after Amma talked me through the scene and where she was coming from, and what I needed to bring to that scene, it reminded me of a moment I had in grad school, actually. Because I was one of 4 Black students out of a cohort of 6, which is huge for a graduate acting program. You just don't find that much diversity all across the country in acting programs. And me coming straight from Spelman College, I went straight from Spelman to this grad school that was a PWI. So most of my professors were white. And
for listeners, who don't know, I just want to know that Spelman is a historically Black college, an HBCU. And so Bria's talking about the juxtaposition of going to a historically Black college with predominantly African American students to a PWI, which is a predominantly white institute. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. Bria. Yes. And so there were moments I had in rooms where I was required and being pushed to be vulnerable and open because, I'm an actor. And so grad school is like 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, you are on. Like it's not just learning about being a better actor, but it's literally taking parts of yourself, breaking stuff down, getting rid of ideas that you have of yourself that don't serve you to become a better person. So it's like a 3-year therapy session that you didn't sign up for. And so I was actually vulnerable and open in white spaces that I still felt didn't see me and didn't want to see me and didn't want to do the work to see me. And so there's a scene that Margaret has that I tapped into that moment I had, some of those moments I had in grad school being taught by white professors who were not trained to teach someone who looked like me and came from my background, and I had to be open and vulnerable to them. And there was never on their behalf like a bending and understanding who a Black woman is, a Black woman of size, a dark-skinned Black woman, where her story is, how she needs to be talked to, how she needs to be trained in acting, what words may be her triggers, and why those words are her triggers, and what weight and history do those words have. And there are different avenues that I can approach it with Bria or approach it with some of these other Black students. But that wasn't ever the case. It was, this is my training, this is what I know, been to that, whether or not I felt disrespected or overseen or overlooked. And so, yeah.
Woo! No, that's powerful. That's powerful stuff, and I can't wait to see that, the endowment of that experience into this character. Yeah,
I'm excited to see it. I hope the work shows up.
I think it will. I think it will. Yes. Yeah, because the word on the street is that you have killed it in this role. I mean, they don't use the term breakout star lightly, so I really feel like you've already been crowned that it works. Thank
you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. I mean, and then with that, I mean, you've already spoke to the fact that you have an MFA in acting, and for listeners who don't know, Bria has an MFA in acting from the prestigious University of Washington's Professional Actor Training Program. And so just, based on your last response, thank you for sharing so personally what you gave or your process into developing the emotional life of the character and, endowing your own experiences to integrate into your character development. And I mean, you more than anyone with an MFA in acting know that the work of an actor is so much more than memorizing lines. I feel like non-artists are like, oh, they memorize their lines, they hit their camera mark, and then the director says action, and then it just pops up. But that's not the case. So We know about what's the work you did for the emotional journey of Margaret Sloan, but what type of historical research did you do to develop the character and really capture the spirit of the 70s?
Yeah, so one thing I do like, and I want to just always dig deeper in, like for the next role I get, I want to dig even deeper in the research that I do. But it was crazy because it was the second round of auditions when I realized maybe Margaret's real. So I Googled her. Right. I had no idea. I was just like, I'm going to give y'all the best interpretation of what you described. But the second round was like, this is so specific. Maybe she's real, y'all. So I Googled her and her picture popped up. And there were a few articles that popped up, but they all said the same information. It was just a general idea. She was born, what her amazing accomplishments, and then, she passed away. But I just wanted to hear her voice. I wanted to see how she lived in her body as well. I feel like I am a very character physical actor. Like I love those kind of roles. I did not want to create a caricature of her. I did want to bring Bria Samoné to this woman, Margaret Sloan, and also be truthful and hold up the integrity of the script and where the script was also taking her character, which are a lot of things that you have to work with and a lot of elements in working. But I remember I was at home. I went home in Richmond, Virginia. I was visiting family. And I remember I had prayed the night before, and I was like, God, I really need to find something about Margaret. I'm only getting pictures, and I'm only getting really broad stroke articles. That's not giving me enough. I guess she was fierce because she did fierce things, but I want to know where this, I want to know how she lives, just so I can feel more connected. And so I remember the next day I Googled her, and I remember I just went down the rabbit hole and I just kept going through all the Google pages until this website came up, Pacifica Radio Archives. And they had some of, during that time, they're now locked, so I can't even access them now. But during that time last year, I was able to pull up recordings of her and Gloria Steinem when they used to travel around, when they used to do college tours to speak on sexism and racism and women's rights and the politics of women's bodies, and just to hear her voice and how funny and how personable and how just big and loud she was. And that was very comforting just to hear her. So I did try to work on some sound changes, but I didn't want to get lost in just sound changes. I was like, I still want to just give truth in it. And and then one day I found a video of an interview she did. And that was very helpful. Now, I only got to see her from the neck up, but because I really wanted to see how she lived in her body head to toe, because that's some of the work that actors do as well when they're portraying someone who's real or they're, portraying a character. And I just was able to see how she lived in her face, though, what her little idiosyncrasies that she would do with her hands, always hands to the face, always adjusting her glasses, and when she would adjust her glasses, and trying to pick specific moments in filming on set to use those little mannerisms that I picked up, and then tried to figure out, okay, if this is what she does in her upper half, I'm just only going to assume that in her lower body, she's probably moving a little like this. She's probably very grounded, and very specific about when she moves her legs and how she lives in her hips as well. So those little things I thought about to try to build her up, and also try to see how they fit in the scenes and if they worked in the scenes.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Yeah. So it sounds like an actor has to be a psychologist, an anthropologist.
Oh, yes.
and a historian.
Right. And one of the big activities we do, even when you're in a BA or BSA acting program, sometimes your professors will tell you, take a few hours just to be outside and observe people, because from people you understand human behavior. And that's why when people go and see movies or people go and see plays, no one's confused about what actors are doing. We get what happens when you fall in love. We get what happens to your eyes when you want to flirt. And we get what happens to your face when you're angry. We understand those kind of behaviors that just live in us innately as humans. And that's how, you're able to watch a full story, not just because of lines and music and directing, but just because of the behavior that the actor's creating as well.
Absolutely. So folks, don't try to fake the funk with Bria Samoné, because she will read you. She will read you, okay?
No,
she
I'm
will
not
read
gonna
you.
read. But I do love coaching. I do coach, and I do teach acting sometimes when I have the time. I love teaching acting, and it's never a read with me. You can ask my students. I'm always, because I do believe that it's never a read, but it's always like trying to dig deeper and trying to figure out what because your instincts are also what help you as well. What you innately do, bring that to any character, because that will always be your saving grace.
Absolutely. Amen to that. Amen to that.
So you can follow me on Instagram at BriaSamone, Bria Samoné. And then on Twitter, it's the same at Bria_Samoné, BRIA_SAMONE.
To everyone listening, please visit popfusiontv.com for more interviews from phenomenal, fabulous people like Miss Bria Samoné. And please tune in and support Bria. Watch Mrs. America on Hulu on April 15th.
Yes.
So this is Malia and Bria. We're going to sign off now. But guys, yes, please tune in, watch Mrs. America, and check out our website for more interviews.